Heisman voting is due in by 5 o'clock today. I went ahead and took the time to do mine because they've got this new funky system where you have to log in, and you know how bad I am at computers. So sure enough, I could have been stuck for that. Happened one time. I had to call in my vote when they first switched over. So I've got mine in. I'm not supposed to say. But I wrote a column on offthehooksports.com. I would encourage people to check out and really beefed up the content there. So excited about the future. I will say Hendon Hooker was on it. And Amanda, I will just ask you, who would you? I'll start with you, and then Caleb, let me go to you. And sorry for putting you on the spot, Amanda, but who would you have 1, 2, 3? Do you think, or do you want Caleb to go first?
No, I can go. I'm fine with going. Honestly, it's kind of like the playoff this year. There's not just runaway favorites. They're in the teams. There's not a runaway favorite. I don't think for college football. I mean, I could see Georgia being it, but then I could also see Georgia dropping the first game to Ohio State just out of fluke, something happening, because Ohio State's very talented, just not very well coached. Anyway. I definitely wouldn't. I can just eliminate people. Caleb Williams will be off for character alone.
I'm not supposed to say, but I might have agreed with you there. Hint,
yes.
Hint, wink, wink. Go ahead.
CJ Stroud, off for lack of execution in games.
I'm not supposed to say, but I might have agreed with you there. Hint, hint, wink, wink.
My God. So I probably would have put it in this order. In the last week, I would have waited to cast my vote till the last possible moment, because I think if you cast your vote already as a Heisman voter before this weekend, you should have your vote removed. I think you should not be allowed to ever vote again. Just get new people in there that won't put their vote in until they see the championship games.
I totally agree. And you sent the email last Monday, a week ago today, and I was like, why do I even need this now? So yes, you can vote before the championship games. You used to be able to vote in like early November, which was bizarre. But go ahead.
So I would, and I know Caleb Williams is going to win it. I have a pretty significant feeling that that's going to happen. But my top 3 would be Bryce Young, because I think Alabama would be crap without him. 2 would be Hendon Hooker, because again, I think he meant the most to his team, if not 1. I would verge on that, but missing a game is a lot to me. Missing a game and a half is a lot. And that's why Bryce and Hendon lose that spot. Number 1, I think, would be TCU's quarterback after watching him, just because it's not, he played every game, but without him, TCU would be significantly worse. He carried that team, I believe, on his shoulders watching him this weekend, and the amount of heart he put into that game. He was out there, NIL money or not, I don't think it would have mattered. I think he was out there doing everything. Literally, the kid looked like he was going to pass out, doing everything possible to get his team that victory. And when he did not, he was shattered. And I think he's leaving it all on the line for his team. And I think that should be the most important thing for people.
Wow. You and I have a lot in common without me saying anything. Caleb, who would be your top 3?
Okay. Sorry.
Are you that guy on Zoom calls that always has their thing muted early?
Yes. First of all, I'm going to say, you two make me sick. I don't care about character. Go out and win. And I like players that play and got a little swag. And I like Caleb Williams. And I'm sorry, I'm not saying he's my Heisman. I like him. Dude's a baller. I liked Johnny Manziel back in the day when he was doing all of his shenanigans back in 2014 or 2013. Maybe I reward bad behavior. I don't know. But I...
It's like, yes, you...
Yeah, God forbid you ever have a son. I mean, where was Caleb Saturday?
I'm sorry?
Where was Caleb Saturday?
What do you mean? Where was Caleb Saturday?
Where was he Saturday? Because the second half of that game, he couldn't hit the broadside of the
Friday.
barn.
Friday.
Oh,
You're right.
Friday, yes, Friday. My bad.
Yeah, yes, that is true. But he did throw for like 360 yards and 3 touchdowns. So, but I'm not saying he's my Heisman winner. I'm just saying I don't care about character. I grew up listening. I grew up at the peak of Southern hip hop, and I love the arrogance.
Caleb,
but anyways,
it does change though when your 17-year-old sends you a picture, and I'd not been aware of it. These kids are all over social media. In case you haven't heard, it's the new thing. And he sends me a picture of the guy, and Amanda sent it to me the same day, of Caleb Williams holding a ball that has FU, the other letter, Notre Dame. My son saw it. I mean, it's hard for me to cast a ballot for a guy that does. And then, okay, maybe he thinks that's a cute thing and nobody's going to see it, but he does it. Amanda pointed out to me he did it the next week.
Y'all are putting me in an awkward position because I don't have children. I don't yet have children on the way, so I can't speak on that. And maybe that's why I am the way I am, but I've never really cared for a little bit of moxie and a little bit of talking. If you want,
it does change you. I was a Cowboys fan, Amanda, so maybe I'm being.
I was gonna say you like the '90s Cowboys. Who are you to call, Dave?
Maybe, Amanda.
We're talking about Deion Sanders over here just last segment, and he's like the king of this.
Yeah, but we always talk about how everybody wants to talk about how these players get themselves into these situations, and then they get arrested and all this other stuff, and people are like, how did they have that? How could that have happened? Because we build them up to be something so much. It's because of you, Caleb. It's because of you. It's because of people like you who love US, who love the smack talk. And the kid paints his fingernails, for God's sakes.
Love it.
I mean, that first of all
fingernails.
threw me off. That threw me off. But then to write F whoever you're playing on your fingernails, I think somebody probably tried to rip his finger off on Friday night because he was bleeding like crazy. But I'm pretty sure somebody probably tried to rip his finger off, and that's why they're probably trying to rip those nails off. Because
my only rule is
don't do that.
My only rule is the more you talk, the more you have to back it up, and the more humiliated you will be if you don't back it up, which he was humiliated.
Oh, yeah.
But that's
wonderful.
But if you talk and you back it up, like the 90s Cowboys, where, they'd show up to practice hungover and be like, yeah, let's just cancel practice today because we know we're the best team in the NFL. And then they go and win the Super Bowl because they knew no one could beat them. And, hey, 90s Cowboys backed it up 3 and 4 years. And, but, okay, going back to the Heisman, I will say, sorry, I got off track. Funny enough, Caleb Williams, it's down to 4 for me, and I don't know where to go. Because there's 2 that I think statistically have the edge, and statistically in big moments, I would say Caleb Williams and Hendon Hooker are those 2. If you look at Hendon Hooker's efficiency, it's insane. I mean, he's the most efficient quarterback I've ever watched play football, and he did it in the SEC. But then there is the elevating play of your team, and that is where the Bryce Young and Max, is it Duggan is how you pronounce his name, right? Not Dugan, it's Duggan.
I think, yes, Duggan. I've got
that
confused on that one.
That's where the Bryce Young and Max Duggan come in. And I've always been a fan of the player that does the most to elevate his team. And that's where I'm going to Max Duggan, because don't get me wrong, I think Hendon Hooker is great. I think there's a lot of quarterbacks you could have plugged into Tennessee's system that would have been very good. Just get Heupel's system and the receivers. There's not a lot of quarterbacks you could plug into TCU system like Max Duggan.
Guys, let me ask you a question, especially you, Amanda, because you and I talked about this. I don't remember us really discussing Max Duggan at all. Did he just come up on our radars this past weekend significantly? I mean, I know we knew who he was, but the 3 of us are kind of all saying the same thing with him.
I think honestly, and I think there's times where somebody can come up and win the Heisman in the last moment. I think that's him for me, because it's almost as if we've eliminated everybody else and he's the one that sticks out. And I know Caleb Williams was the favorite, and he's still the favorite. He's probably going to win it, and I'm going to, puke. But I think that watching him leave it on the field like he did on Saturday was that key moment. And again, I don't think the Big 12 is that great of a conference. I just don't. I think TCU taking on, honestly, the top 10 may squeak by with 2 wins, like out of the top 10. They may win twice.
Yep.
But he's the reason that they're even in the conversation, and just his character and his heart. I can't.
Brittany said, I think he had played well all along, but because he plays for TCU, he was discounted. I think there's some truth to that. I think, weren't we all just kind of waiting? If you didn't go out of your way to watch TCU, which you really have to do, I mean, you have to flip around to find it. You probably were just waiting for them to lose, right? I mean, didn't everybody think? Yeah, the whole season, you're like, okay, this little dream, this fairy tale, and probably a lot of people thought the same way about Tennessee, but at least Tennessee had some sort of tradition. So Smoky Mountain Red said, is there actual hope for, well, and it did happen in Tennessee. Smoky Mountain Red said, is there actual hope for Hendon Hooker to win or even get an invite? Honest opinions. I believe from the people I've talked to, now this is a limited group. I didn't poll 50 people, but I did talk to about 5 or 6 over the past week that they all had Hendon on their ballot. Now, these are only one person covers Tennessee, but is as objective as anybody that's ever covered any team. Another one covers LSU. I mean, so it was all over the place. So, yeah, I mean, I think he's going to get an invite, and I don't know that I thought that a week ago.
Well, people knocked themselves out this past weekend. I mean, really, that's what happened.
Yeah, this is very much like 2016, I think, when Lamar Jackson won the Heisman. Mm-hmm. And Hendon Hooker played a lot better the last month of this season than Lamar Jackson did the last month of that season with Louisville. Lamar Jackson won it totally by default. Probably should have ended up going to Deshaun Watson. Again, we did not, in all seriousness, we did not know about the character flaws with Deshaun Watson at that time. That's why I'm saying that now.
But you would have voted for him, Caleb.
Not
would have
that.
Voted for him.
Not that. No, I would not have voted. That crosses a line.
Character don't matter.
Yeah,
Caleb, character does not matter.
I actually heard rumors in recruiting, but the thing that you have to remember is if it's a runaway, they can invite less people so that 2 people aren't sitting there looking stupid like in the NFL draft room, and they're not going to win. Okay, so they can invite 3 to 5 people. So with the fact that this seems like a more wide open race than most years, I think they could invite 5. And if they invite 5, there's no way he's out. Okay. If they just invite 3, then yeah, I mean, I could see it. It's a 50-50 to me.
I agree.
No, I mean, I think he's in regardless. And I mean, the last week, I think the last 2 weeks is where you get knocked out of the Heisman, where CJ Stroud got knocked out against Michigan. He has been mediocre in a lot of games this season. And when Michigan played Ohio State, CJ Stroud was abysmal. So I think he got knocked out that game. I think, in my opinion, if people waited to vote, which, God, I hope they did, then you would have knocked Caleb Williams out Friday. I just think that some people took a tumble.
Or at least down a couple of notches.
Yes. And I think Caleb Williams, if hopefully his character or lack thereof played a role in his painting his fingernails and doing the Heisman pose on national television and taunting the other players and all that other stuff. Like, if it were me, he would have been out of my Heisman just based on character alone.
Let me throw a couple of hypotheticals at you. First, let me start with this. Does anybody think Hendon Hooker can actually win it?
No.
I don't either.
No.
Okay. Hendon Hooker continues to play, doesn't get hurt. His numbers are high. They lose to South Carolina on a last-second field goal. Does he win it?
He's top 2 at least.
I think he wins it.
I think he wins it too at that point.
That's heartbreaking.
Only because I think he wins it. It also because it's funny. A lot of Heisman voters do think like David Amanda, not me. They do like character, and Hooker has high character. My evidence for that is 2007, Tim Tebow. That was one of the worst, least deserving Heismans of all time. That should have gone to Darren McFadden. I've been saying that for years, but everybody likes Tim Tebow, even though he had 4 losses that year, and he was the reason they lost to LSU that year. So I do remember the 2007 Heisman went to Tim Tebow because everybody liked him, and Hendon Hooker would have had that type of cachet had he kept it close.
Character was out in 2014 when they gave it to Jameis Winston. Let's not play. Character went out. Yeah. Yes, whatever. Character
and
went out.
with Johnny Manziel.
Yes. And 2010 with Cam Newton. So character went out the window a while ago.
The problem with 2010 and 2013, I think, though, with Jameis and Cam, and Dave would probably agree with me on that. I think they were so head and shoulders above the rest of college football that year. It was like, it wouldn't have been a serious award if you didn't give it to them.
I felt dirty throwing for Cam or voting for Cam.
But it's like,
but I didn't feel like I had a choice.
Yeah, it was so obvious.
Always have
2000, but if it's close, character can push you ahead.
Seriously. Go ahead.
If it's close, character can. And by the way, can we talk about layers of character here? There's a difference between what Jameis Winston and Deshaun Watson have allegedly been accused of doing versus writing "F you" on fingernails. Okay, that's not like physically harming anybody. Okay, we're talking about character for saying some mean things that might hurt somebody's feelings when we talk about Caleb Williams versus doing some actual really horrendous things allegedly with Jameis and Deshaun Watson.
Arrogance is my issue. Arrogance and not confidence. Confidence is different than arrogance. Caleb Williams is arrogant. That's a problem for me. Jameis Winston's arrogant. Johnny Manziel is arrogant. Baker Mayfield is arrogant. I mean, a lot of these Heisman winners were arrogant. But throw away what they did on the side or what they're alleged of doing. The character, my biggest character issue, 2 of them, is arrogance and a lack of discipline. And I think each one of those players have that. And we've seen it come out in droves, if not in college, in the NFL. That's my issue.
I would agree with that. It just seems like Tennessee, over the course of a century, has found unique ways to not win the Heisman. The Heisman has found unique ways not to give it to Tennessee.
Didn't character allegedly cost Peyton Manning in '97? Didn't that trainer incident?
The teabag incident.
Yes, that led to some. Wow, you said it, Amanda. Well, I wasn't going to say it, but yeah.
Well, I don't think that was.
I've heard rumors that it cost him the Heisman.
I don't think so. I think he was just a boring candidate. I think and I think Tennessee, their sports information department, overdid it and promoted him. They sent out, literally, they killed an entire Amazon rainforest in the amount of stuff they send out. Now you just get it on Twitter.